On the cushion or chair are not the only places where we can be mindful, of course. While it may be hard to imagine being aware in all of our waking hours, Suzuki Roshi said that unless we are, we cannot be free of our delusions. Indeed, when we are not present in the way that we are when we are being mindful, that is, not being in the here and now, where we are likely to be is in our thoughts. Even feelings such as those of love or hate originate in thoughts. And so when taking our thoughts seriously, we cannot be where we are. In other words, cannot be just being, as our emotions are apt to be off somewhere on their own. We are also not likely to be mindful once finding some way to pass our free time. Fearing boredom, as if this were something to be afraid of, we turn to external things to be entertained. Computer games, smartphones, social media, etc., while seemingly helpful in satisfying this need to occupy ourselves in order that being bored will not be an issue. Continuous use of these electronic forms to fill unoccupied spaces in our lives has been shown to lead to having an unexpected effect. The more people use them, the more depressed they are. People. Yeah. Finally, when outside ourselves being entertained, we are not paying attention to what is happening inside. That said, life itself requires us to be involved in the outside world, whether it be in our work, or family, or friends. It might seem more difficult to be mindful then, but we are not actually trying to be that. Awareness takes place when we are giving our full attention to whatever is in front of us. As the well-known Zen axiom goes, when working, just work. When eating, just eat. Whatever you are doing, just do it, including being with others. Just to be completely with them is enough. However, to think that you could be mindful then may be a mistake, as this would be trying to be inside when you are already outside. Understanding the meaning of what we are chanting is also not the same as when chanting, just chant. When reciting a sutra, what it says is irrelevant. In looking for meaning when chanting, we will get lost in trying to get our thoughts together, which will interfere with our being mindful. Some people may even like chanting just because doing so has no connection to meaning. Sutras have meaning, of course, but the time for studying them is when we are just studying them. Otherwise, we should pay attention only to the act of chanting. We do it in the same way that we do meditation. The difference between sitting and chanting being only in the body parts involved. Even when first starting to practice, putting one's whole being into chanting is certainly not a waste of time. Our Shingon teacher in Japan recommended that we chant the Heart Sutra in Japanese together before we lay down to sleep. This week, however, I have had to do it alone, although Harvey slowly wags her tail. But now I see, this is not in my script here, now I can see with Jane in front of me that we could indeed do it together. Chant the Heart Sutra in Japanese. Moreover, being mindful of what we are doing at any time cannot work if we're mainly thinking of ourselves. This is not because it would entail multitasking, although it does, but similar to our trying to understand chants while we are chanting. To do so, to think of oneself at the same time as doing something else, would be to reason unwisely. An example of this would be our thinking that we need more than we are getting in some situation, out of fear that we won't get taken care of unless we take care of ourselves first. Such desires to get something for ourselves walls us off from our own world. Self-interested thoughts getting in the way and closing what has been open. It narrows our perspective instead of broadening it. To be mindful is to be aware of where you are and what you are doing. Where else should you be but here? Okay, thank you. Take my paper away here. Anybody have any comments or questions?
Hey Steve, can you give me a thumbs up if you hear me at a relatively normal volume right now? Yeah? Alright, cool. Then microphone's good the way it is.
Okay.
So, what about the Daihi Shindarani? Is that a good chant too?
Well, we've never done the Dai Shindarani here, but we have actually in the past. We used to do it on Wednesday mornings actually. Yeah, that's when you chant. Of course, we do the Meiju Kukanongyo every Saturday, of course, and used to be every morning too. Okay. And one of our members actually recommended that we chant in Japanese even during our daily service. I mean, this today, of course, is full moon ceremony, but generally we could chant that in Japanese too. Maybe we can put it up and try it sometime. See how you like it.
You have a full moon ceremony in Japanese?
I'm sorry, I mistaked up in how I said it, but of course, not that, no. No.
Heart Sutra for a normal Saturday service.
No, normal Saturday services, yeah.
We could alternate.
Yeah, we can alternate. See which you like better. Suzuki, when Zen Center started for the first, well, I don't know exactly what happened at exact beginning, but pretty much when I was around, until 1970, 69, the Heart Sutra was chanted in Japanese 3 times, and that was the service.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and then Tatsugami Roshi came, and when he came, then he taught us more things to chant. But we chanted them in Japanese, except for the Heart Sutra, which got started doing it in English at that time, at Tassahara. Any other any questions or comments? Anybody? What?
Okay, I'll stick my nose in here.
Mike? Yeah.
When we're doing anything, we concentrate on what we're doing because we only have this moment. That's all it is. It's the now. And so, if we act, the way I hate this word, should or whatever, we're in the present, and that's the whole thing. Is to be in the moment. You're not distracted by worrying about, oh, am I going to get this done right, or I have to do this later, or I forgot to do this, or whatever. The natural position of man is the moment, and that's all there is. It's just now. And so, whether you're chanting, whether you're working, cleaning, washing dishes, whatever, the essence of it is being there in
Yeah,
that whole
exactly.
that position.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I forgot about washing dishes, but I should have put that in there. It's one of my favorites, actually.
Or dusting the Zendo or
Yeah,
something
that's
like that.
yeah.
Cheating.
Yeah.
That's the nature of my greatest enlightenment. Coming to like washing dishes. Please don't put that down.
Is this being recorded?
It's being recorded.
Jane would like to say something.
Peter, thank you. That was nice. I enjoyed it.
That was nice. I enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you, hon. Thank you. That's why. Thank you for going to the hospital and doing this, Arvin. That's really nice. Okay. Anyone else?
I kind of see a parallel between what you were saying about chanting and the various forms,
Mm-hmm.
where like you have to step in with this foot because it's closer to the hinge. Well, why? It's like, don't worry about that. It's like, okay, when we walk around, we hold our hands in shashu. It's like the more you're sort of pouring yourself and occupying the forms, it's like a physical corollary or parallel to when you're chanting and you're not really thinking about what you're saying, which is why doing it in Sino-Japanese is kind of more helpful because you don't really know what you're saying.
Yeah. Exactly right. Yeah. That's right. That's what the forms, the people who would go to a Japanese temple, a monastery, a training monastery, they might think, what they're just they never. There's no thinking going on here. They aren't thinking, but that's the whole point.
Yeah.
So but you're doing it when you're in a monastery. You're concentrating on that one fact, so it gives you a good jump start to your practice, because you're just doing. Yeah.
Once you like learn the forms, once they sort of, because like while you're learning them, while you're trying to remember and you don't know them very well, it can take a lot of concentration. But once you know them, then you just relax.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
not worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
There was one thing Jane taught me when we were talking about like the Dharma talks. I always complained I couldn't remember them.
Yeah.
And she said, "You're not supposed to remember them. Just listen to them." And I realized that if I just listen to them and I don't sit there and go, "Okay, you gotta remember this. You gotta remember this." If I say that, I don't remember it. If I just listen to it, it stays there. You're forcing the problem. You just do what you're doing, and it works out fine. But if you sit there and go, "I gotta do this right. I gotta do it this way," you're no longer there.
But generally, you do a very good job at nevertheless, generally, Mike, you do a very good job at paraphrasing what Dharma talks are about. That's for sure. Yeah. Anyone else?
I'll say something. When I read the chants, to make sure I don't miss
Yeah.
something, if I know that we have to say the words right,
Yeah.
and I read it, I find that my mind wanders,
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the point.
and that I start thinking of other things, and because I've got it down.
Yeah.
In fact, when I type and read something that I'm typing, I can actually talk to other people while I'm doing it. I'm in action.
Wow.
Yeah, it's because there's this separation, I think, of autonomous systems or something like that. So
Yeah.
bringing them all together is the key.
Yeah, that's the key. Yeah, that's the key. Yes, it is. Anyone else? Yes, Steve.
Yeah, probably like everybody else, there's times where, very few times I would say that I feel in the moment. And one thing I've really noticed is I cook a lot of dinners, and there's something about chopping things and that keeps me in the moment. That kind of stuff. I really noticed that I can really stay in the moment at that time.
Probably the knife.
Yeah, don't want to cut myself with the knife, that's for sure. But yeah, in other areas, it becomes difficult at times for me. I was out working in the yard the other day and felt like I was in that moment. When I play golf, I feel like a lot of times I'm in the moment. But there are many a times where I find myself drifting into thought, and I guess it's just practice, and practice is all I can say.
Well, that in itself is all very good. Jane, did you say something?
And she's saying he doesn't want to cut himself with his knife.
Oh, actually, oh, right. Okay, okay. I just,
Thank the one that knew. Thank the one that knew. Who's doing it for you?
Thank the one in you who's doing it for you.
okay. Anyone else?
Rachel?
Rachel? Oh, yeah, there you are, over in the corner right next to my head.
You can be in the moment thinking as well, especially, I mean, if you're creating something, writing something, you can be aware of thinking in a way that is not being lost in thought. Can you not? Do you know what I mean when it's a
That's a very
focused
good
task?
answer that I didn't include. No, definitely, yeah, that's right. You can thinking itself is an act, and when you're just doing the thinking, just thinking. When I'm writing, I don't know. I don't think about myself. I'm just writing, and yeah, but you're just concentrating, so your mind is not drifting. It doesn't matter which act it is, but thinking is thank you is one of the acts, Rachel. Definitely. Yeah. Thinking is not a bad guy or a woman. It's the how we use it that's the problem. Tend to use it is the problem. Okay. Yes, Mark.
In modern science, I think everybody knows this is a flow state. And when we get into the flow state with a simple task or anything, in creating and things like that, we achieve like an expansion where we feel like and that's when we touch it, that feeling we're there with the task and all that it takes. And it's harder with simple things that you've done a lot, For instance, I could do cooking and then it's like, I want to do something else too with my mind, so it's kind of hard to bring it down into cooking and cutting and stuff like that. So I guess I need to cut myself more.
I can attest to that. I've talked to Mark many times while he was cooking, and I was talking to him, yeah, on telephone, of course, yeah, because I call him when he's cooking. That's why somebody, so he talks to me at the same time. But he does it very well, I guess, yeah. John. Thank you.
I was just going to say, I think that sometimes people get a little lost in this idea of no thought. It's not that, like Rachel alluded to, it's not that you don't think, it's that you don't become attached to the untethered thoughts that are often related to anxieties about things that are going on in the past, the future, whatever it may be. It's more so allowing ourselves to be free of those than it is thought per se as a whole. It's more so thoughts and that are untethered and running. It's the monkey mind. I used to have a teacher, and he would explain, he said, kind of like big mind, he said, you have, your lizard brain and your monkey mind, and it's constantly running these thoughts at you. He's like, that's what you're trying to kind of cut away or control. It's not thought, all of it. He's like, because you have your higher mind, that's attached to, the interdependence of all things. He said, and that's what we're often not connected to. And the way to get connected to that is to quiet the monkey mind.
Good. Yes, very true. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, Rachel.
I was thinking, average people usually don't question they can't control their impulses. Like you don't have to grab something off the table, or you can instruct children, all the rest of it. It's not really an insurmountable notion that thoughts are somewhat in the same spectrum. In other words, that someone will say, well, I have to feel that way, or I have to think that way. And yet they can restrain in any number of other ways. And I mean, cognitively, the idea of noticing what you're thinking is not is is relevant to the same kind of training of impulse control, or just simply noticing what you're doing. Like any athlete or musician must learn to calibrate cognitive and physical at the same time.
Yeah, that's right. That's good. That's a good example. Yeah. Welcome, Donna. Anybody else? Okay, well, yes, anybody else? Okay.